When I was 7 years old, I used to sleep in my grandmother's room. She knew so many beautiful stories and would tell them to me at night. I don't remember most of them now, but there was one she told me when I became a teenager, a story that never left my mind. It was about a creature. Even then, I had the feeling that the story wasn't whole, that she had hidden something. What she told me may have started as a tale, but the rest wasn't a story. It was reality. My grandmother's name was Rosa. If she were alive today, the very first question I would ask her is this: was that story true? The village where it all began had a pleasant atmosphere, nestled deep in the heart of the country. The houses were rough and domed, with the scent of earth and old stone lingering in the air. Rosa arrived there with trembling steps and eyes red from weeping. She was 4 months pregnant, but in those days, instead of joy, there was something else in the air. She was saddened by a constant, uninvited guest, sorrow. Her husband, Era, my grandfather, had left her. Now, Rosa was broken and heartbroken, returning to her father's house with nothing but the weight of silence and an unborn child. Her father understood immediately. He didn't ask questions. He knew his daughter well, and Rosa would never have returned unless something was terribly wrong. When she finally told him her story, he said nothing, only sat in silence, his eyes dark with thoughts he didn't share. Rosa's mother had passed away when she was just a child, leaving her father to raise the children alone. He worked tirelessly, both inside the house and outside, playing the role of both father and mother to his children. When Rosa had told him she wanted to marry Ara, he had been against it. He warned her that Ara was rebellious and arrogant, too wild to ever bring peace to a home. But Rosa hadn't listened. Love, or what she thought was love, had clouded her judgment. That night, Rosa slept in the room she had grown up in. The smell of old straw, dried flowers, and the faint perfume of wild herbs lingered in the air. It gave her a bittersweet feeling, a wave of nostalgia wrapped in the soft fabric of lost innocence. It should have brought comfort, but instead, it only reminded her of how far she had drifted from the safety of her childhood. But that good feeling didn't last long. In the middle of the night, Rosa woke up with a strange sensation. It was as if something or someone was in the room, a shadow, an invisible presence. Her senses sharpened. Then she heard it, a low, roaring sound echoing in her ears like the rush of wings brushing through heavy air. It wasn't human. It wasn't natural. Fear gripped her entire body. Her mind reached into the past, into the stories her grandmother used to tell, tales of a strange creature that roamed the dark, searching for pregnant women or their unborn children. Rosa had always brushed those stories off as mere superstition, nothing more than folklore whispered by the fire. But now, in the silence and the crushing darkness, she was feeling something very real. This wasn't imagination, it was terror. At first light, Rosa took the earliest bus into the city to see her doctor. She sat across from him and recounted everything, the shadow, the voice, the feeling of something lurking near her. The doctor listened quietly, then offered a small, clinical smile. "Rosa," he said gently, "these are just insinuations. In pregnancy, the mind can become very imaginative. It's normal." But Rosa knew better. She had felt something, something that didn't belong to this world. The second night, it came again. Only this time, it was worse. When the house was still, when everyone had slipped into sleep, Rosa lay wide awake in the dark. And then she heard it. A voice. Soft, distant, calling her name. A gentle voice called out again, soft, almost like a lullaby. It sounded just like her mother's. Rosa slowly got out of bed and moved toward the door. Everything around her was cloaked in darkness, with only the pale light of the moon spilling into the yard. She whispered, barely audible, "Mama, is it you?" And then she saw it. Yes, she saw her. A woman stood in the shadows, but not just any woman. She was strange, uncanny, wrong. Her body was human, but her presence wasn't. Her smile curled unnaturally, and her eyes shimmered with something wicked. She wore Rosa's mother's face like a mask. She spoke with her voice, sweet and haunting. "My daughter," the creature said softly, lips parting in a devilish grin. "Come here. I want to give you something to calm your pain." For a moment, Rosa was tempted. There was something comforting in the voice, something familiar, something missed. But deep in her chest, a cold knot tightened. This wasn't her mother. There was a job left unfinished, and there was a fear, deep and ancient, sitting heavy in her heart. Suddenly, Rosa let out a squeak of terror and turned, running back inside the house. Behind her, the creature laughed, loud and awful, a sound that pierced through the night like a blade. And then it vanished into the shadows. Her father jolted awake to the sound of her screams. He rushed to her room, heart pounding, and found her shaking, pale, trying to speak. When she finally told him what she'd seen, the color drained from his face. He stared at the floor, trembling slightly, and murmured under his breath, "Don't doubt it. She has come for Rosa." Her father didn't say a word. He walked out of the room and headed toward the basement. Rosa sat in silence, her heart still pounding from the encounter, her hands trembling. Time passed slowly, and after what felt like more than an hour, he finally returned. In his hand, he held a knife. It was old, with strange carvings etched into its handle. Its blade shimmered faintly under the flickering light. "Rosa, my daughter," he said, his voice firm but low, "take this knife. Wherever you go, keep it with you. Even when you sleep, place it under your pillow." "But why, father?" she asked, confused and frightened. "Don't ask," he interrupted sharply. "Just do as I say." He turned and called for Rosa's siblings. When they gathered in the small living room, he spoke again, his tone grave. "From tonight on," he said, "one of you will stay awake each night, taking turns to watch over your sister." There was no questioning him. The fear in his eyes was enough to silence everyone. A few days passed. Rosa remained pale and quiet, the knife always close, tucked beneath her pillow at night and hidden in her dress during the day. Then one evening, a neighbor returned to the village. She was an old, kind-hearted woman, known to all and loved by many. Her name carried warmth and wisdom. She had been gone for some time, visiting her children in another town, but now she had returned. That night she came to Rosa's house. It was already dark when she knocked on the door. One of Rosa's sisters answered, surprised. "I heard she was a little unwell," the old woman said gently. "I came to see if there was anything I could do." "Come in," the girl offered, hesitating. "Now?" she added, glancing at the clock. "Why at this time of night?" The old woman smiled softly, her eyes kind but unreadable. "Night or day doesn't matter," she said. "I thought maybe I could help." The old woman stepped inside with a gentle smile, her voice sweet and comforting. She looked toward the room and called out, loudly and clearly, "Rosa, Rosa, my dear." Rosa, half asleep, stirred and slowly got up. "Who wants to see you at this time of night?" her father asked, suspicious. I don't know, father," she replied, confused. Her father stood up, face tightening with unease. "Stay here. I'll go see who it is." He walked toward the entrance where the old woman stood, wrapped in a long cloak, her silver hair glinting faintly in the dim light. As he reached the door, he peered closer. His heart skipped a beat. It was Miss Lainu. At least, that was the face she wore. A well-known woman from the village, who had left years ago. But something wasn't right. As they exchanged a few polite words, his eyes fell on her hands. And that's when he saw it. They were not the hands of an old woman. They were too large, disturbingly large, ugly, unnatural, with long black pointed nails that curled slightly at the tips, monstrous. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. All of his doubts, all his quiet fears were now absolute certainties. This wasn't Miss Lainu. This wasn't a human at all. Without a word, Rosa's father reached into his pocket. His fingers wrapped tightly around the carved handle of the knife, the very one he had given to Rosa. But tonight, he might need it himself. A sudden surge of fear swept through the creature's body, so strong she could no longer hold her disguise. With a bone-chilling grin, she began to shift, her face twisted and cracked, her skin melting away like wax. Before Rosa's father stood a horrifying figure, no longer Miss Lining. It was something else entirely. An ugly, terrifying creature with blood-red eyes that glowed in the dark and sharp, jagged teeth that gleamed like broken glass. Her limbs were twisted, her nails black and curling like claws. With unnatural strength, she shoved Rosa's father aside. He stumbled backward, hitting the ground with a thud. The creature moved toward the house, slow, deliberate steps echoing in the night. From the window, Rosa watched in frozen horror. She couldn't move, couldn't even blink. Her breath caught in her throat as the front door creaked open. And there she was, face to face with the thing that wore her mother's voice. The creature stared at her, eyes burning like coals. "I just want your child," she whispered in a voice dripping with venom. "That's all I came for." Rosa stood motionless, like a statue, as though she had been carved from fear itself. But her father hadn't given up. Despite the pain, he forced himself up from the ground. He wouldn't let this thing take his daughter, not while he still drew breath. With a cry from deep within his soul, he rushed inside. The knife still in his hand, its carved handle warm with purpose. In a swift, desperate motion, he plunged the blade into the creature's back. The moment steel met flesh, an inhuman scream pierced the air. The creature convulsed, twisting violently, her form unraveling into smoke. Thick purple and red mist exploded from her body, swirling through the air as she howled in agony. It rushed toward the door and escaped, carried away on the wind, screaming as it vanished into the night, and then silence. Only the sound of Rosa's shaky breath and her father's heartbeat remained. The creature that Rosa and her father faced wasn't just a random supernatural being. It was an ancient, malevolent force, tied to the very land they lived on. Its origins stretched back centuries, predating even Rosa's family. It was a vengeful spirit, a shapeshifter, who took on the form of loved ones to manipulate and terrify its victims. In life, it had been a woman named Lilith, who was rumored to have made a dark pact with the forces of the underworld. Seeking immortality, she performed forbidden rituals that cursed her and her descendants. Her original form, once beautiful, was twisted into a nightmarish creature with sharp teeth and glowing red eyes, forever trapped between the realms of the living and the dead. Lilith's curse lingered in the village, passed down through generations. Those who were chosen, often by blood, would unknowingly become the target of her wrath. It wasn't just a random act of evil. Lilith had been searching for something. Rosa's bloodline carried a special mark, the same mark that had once been seen in Lilith's own lineage. The pact had bound their fates together, and Rosa was the one who could finally end it. The creature's transformation wasn't just a physical shift. It was the manifestation of Lilith's sorrow and anger, a desperate attempt to reclaim the life she once had. The voice she used, the one that mimicked Rosa's mother, was part of this manipulation. It was a lure, drawing Rosa closer, tempting her with a false sense of comfort just before the final strike. When Rosa's father stabbed the creature with the knife, the power within it reacted violently. The knife was not just any weapon. It had been forged in the fires of the underworld, a family heirloom passed down through generations. It was the only tool capable of severing the creature's connection to the realm of the living. But though the creature vanished in a puff of smoke, it wasn't gone for good. The curse remained, like a shadow over the village. The creature was merely biding its time, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. Rosa's family was forever marked by its legacy, and the battle was far from over. The creature could return, stronger and more vengeful than before.